Let's start with Asmon's video. Let's start with Asmon's video about his mom and that whole situation. Like I said earlier, I originally wasn't gonna watch this on stream, but he posted it on his main channel, and I was like, you know what? Let's check it out. I think I know a lot of what's going to be said in this video because of talking to Asmon and that kind of stuff. I kind of already know what to expect a little bit, but I know this is a little bit this is going to be a little bit more serious video than normal things. So we will start here. Yeah, people are saying they cried a lot. Like I said, I already know a lot of what to expect, I think, because just from, like I said, from talking to Asmon and everything. So this is going to be a little bit different, even though I haven't seen the video. I kind of expect to know a lot of what he's talking about, but let's just watch it.
Hey guys, I don't really even know how to begin a video like this. I don't know how to make a video like this. I don't even know where to begin, but I'll do my best because it's important for me to make videos and share my life and at least even document it, because it's something that I've always done. And I think that for many of you all who are in, have been, or will be in this situation, it could also help you guys too.
It's a fact of life.
Last week my mom passed away.
And it sucks.
And I'll be honest, I still can't come to terms with it. I still feel like every time I say it, I'm lying. Like, oh, well, she'll be back next week. Gosh, you know, she's just on a trip, she'll be back. I'll go into her room before I go to bed, and I'll look for her to say goodnight to her, and wake up and look in her chair where she would sit in and see if she's there. And there's a big part of me that hopes that never stops. And this is probably the worst thing and the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with so far. And I don't know if I'll ever really be the same. And I kind of wanted to share what happened and talk a little bit more about her and just kind of just talk about it, I guess. So for a little bit of context, I live in Austin, Texas, and I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I moved here when I was like 6 months old, and the rest of my family and pretty much everybody else in my family is in Florida, Georgia, and New York, and a few other states too. And that's pretty much about it. So here in Texas, I've got my mom and my dad. And whenever I was growing up, they were the two most important people in my life. And my parents are divorced, and I lived with my mom. So I spent so much time with her and with only her. And I also want to make one thing just absolutely crystal clear, is that while this is a huge thing for me because of how much time I spent with my mom, my dad has been the best father that anybody could ever ask for. He's been there for me. He's taught me so many things, and he's been, even the things that pissed me off whenever I was a kid that he would do. Now, whenever I'm getting older, I think to myself, well, I'm going to do that probably to my kids too. You know, it was for the best. Fuck. So I don't want to make this in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's life, dude. True,
you know, it's not about him. It's life. Too, but my mom, I lived with her, and for the past 10 years, I've taken care of her. I've been, in a way, a caretaker for her.
I met his mom.
She was 70 years old. She was overweight. She smoked, and she basically lived her life like a college freshman. She sat around getting high and smoking cigarettes and eating fast food, drinking soda, and watching reruns of Ancient Aliens. And to be fair, that's what she wanted to do. And she did exactly what she wanted. And that is a good and also a bad thing. I tried for many years to try to get her to stop smoking and to try to get her to take her diet and her health more seriously. And she would occasionally make a half-hearted measure to do that, but for the most part, she wouldn't. I learned about cigarettes, about how bad they were when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I come home and I'm like, did you know that this it can do this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, what is going on? Why are you doing this? Why are you smoking these? And she just, it could never really be understood to me
My
why
uncle.
she continued smoking. And I was just so upset, and I tried, and I'll always wonder um, if
I had a similar situation with my uncle. Whenever I went back to visit Iran, and my uncle smokes, and everybody learns when they're a kid how bad smoking is, how bad cigarettes are, whatever. Um, and I remember like getting in a fight with my uncle, who I only saw him, you know, for several months of my life, like as far as being in the same location as him, because I live in America. I remember how upset I was and my uncle for smoking cigarettes, knowing how bad it was as a kid. So whenever I think about this in terms of, uh, you know, in Asmon's situation, right? This is your mom, right? Like this is your you know, you love all your family, right? You love your I mean, you would hope, right? Like your uncles, your aunts, everything. But when it's your mom, it's a little bit different. So I just remember like that sort of frustration that I felt with my uncle whenever I was like 8 or 9, and just like amplified like times 10. It's your mom. You live with her. It affects you too, technically. You know, secondhand smoke, all that stuff. But like, it's your mom. So I just couldn't imagine like taking that and relating to it. You know what I mean?
it was like my fault in a way, because I would buy cigarettes for her. Is it my fault in a way that she is where she is, and what happened happened because I bought the cigarettes for her? The logical part in my brain tells me that no, it's not, because somebody else would have just bought them for her anyway. But there's still another part of my brain that does feel guilt, and I don't know if that was the right decision or not. Can you really
I might
protect the
not know
person from
exactly what you're
himself?
about, but I feel like
It's impossible.
thanks, Ravis. I appreciate that,
And
man. Thank you,
I
dude.
did try.
And welcome to my stream,
I
man.
failed though. And anyway, so smoking for 50 years gives you something called COPD. And my mom got COPD quite a while ago. And over the years, it's just gotten worse. That's the way the disease works. And basically, about like 10 years ago or so, she first went to the hospital for the first time. And she came out with, in a lot of ways, a clean bill of health. And I tried to get her to, you know, like live differently, exercise more, etc. And it didn't really happen. I tried the garden that I've showed you all many times. I planted that garden in the hopes that she would go
really
out and like maybe take care of the plants or something, you know, and that didn't really happen. She just did what she wanted to do, and so the disease got worse, right? And this is kind of the first time she went to the hospital, and the second time, and
Thanks, Velvet Jordan.
and there was a long period of time where she didn't.
Thanks, John
And
Owitz.
then she started walking around the house with a cane, and I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you using a cane? Just walk around normally. And it was this childish and stupid thing for me to think, because I knew why. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. And anyway, so this is maybe a few months ago. I don't want to make this video super long. Is that a few months ago she just kind of had really bad breathing problems. Like it went kind of from like, it was like 0 to 60, or it was actually like, if you want to talk about her oxygen, it was more like 95 to 60, and 75, something like that. Her oxygen went down very drastically, quite fast.
So just to put that in perspective, so whenever I got COVID, they got me like a pulmonary deal. They got me a pulmonary deal where it measures your oxygen in your blood and everything. They told me if you get below 95, like it's dangerous. Like it's like, okay, below 95, like you just start like really paying attention. Like 95 to 99 is good. That was for COVID, right? So if it, if no, not NFL deal, pulmonary deal, not that kind of deal. But if it goes down to, if it goes down that low, like that's like insane. Where are you at? I was above. Yeah, it was 92 is like the, sorry, 92 they said, I think, yeah, maybe it was 92. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Yeah, 92. So below 92, I guess it was. Maybe I got my 5 and 2 flipped. But I personally was around 95 ish the whole time. Um, so because I was always a couple above, but and I went down kind of low sometimes. But like if it went down to like 75, that's insane. Yeah, that's like really really low. And I know I mentioned this at the start of the video, but I'm going to mention again. Actually, two things I'm going to mention. One, I haven't watched this video, but I've talked to Asmon like about this a little bit, and he's, you know, there's some things in here I'm sure that I don't know that maybe he just like didn't mention or whatever that he's going to mention in the video. So a lot of the stuff that I'm closer to the situation than a viewer typically would be. So um, I'm not expecting too many surprises in the video. This is one of those things. It's a fact of life. Everybody has to go through this to some degree at some point. You know, in a normal course of life, this is something that people go through, but in different ways, and then also not only in different ways, people deal with it in different ways, and I don't think it's ever easy. I think it's one of those things that's always hard, difficult. It's something that has always kind of been like one of my own like biggest things that I worry about, like fears or whatever. Even though I know it's coming, it's hard. It's weird to call it a fear, but it's true, I guess.
And I remember I was like right here out in this deck, and I called a nurse's hotline, and they said that I needed to call an ambulance.
I don't really
for
think
her
so,
right
Mr.
away.
Mustache.
And I didn't do that because she was
be
just like
honest.
begging me not to do that. Don't call
Like,
an ambulance.
nothing
Don't call
specific.
an ambulance. Don't do that. And the reason is that her and I, we grew up quite poor, and like not dirt poor. And my dad has always had my back with things for sure, but we did grow up poor. And in the process of that, seeking medical
Yeah,
care
no, I
in the
appreciate
United
Mr.
States
Mustache,
is not
and he is
necessarily
too.
the most reasonable prospect. And so anyway,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Hanvar.
I was able to.
I hope your
convince
family's
her to
doing
go
okay,
down to the
but we'll see in a
hospital
little
that
bit.
Night, and she was there for 3 or 4 days, and there was a good bit of relief for me because I was able to just kind of relax a little bit and know that she was in good hands. But I got a call maybe 4 or 5 days afterwards from her, and she was just so adamantly against being in the hospital. She did not want to be in the hospital. That she said that if I didn't come down there and get her, that she was just going to get a taxi and drive home herself. And my mom's always had this. It's been like a streak of just kind of, I'll do whatever I want to do. It doesn't matter what the cost is. And it was like in a way unrealistic. Like how could you possibly do that? But this is just what she would say, and I was so worried that she would hurt herself in the process of trying to do that, that I went and I took her home against medical advice. And I, again, another thing that I don't know if it was the right decision or not. I was afraid that she would sabotage herself in some other way, and it just really scared me to even think about that because I didn't know what was going to happen. I can't know what a person is going to do, and so I just kind of had to make the best decision I could. And I
Thanks,
don't know if
Cad.
it's the right one
Thanks
or
for
not.
27 months. One
So
UK,
she went
thanks for
home with
13
an
months.
oxygen machine, and she didn't use it for quite a while. And then finally, whenever she started to use it, things kind of got better, and then they were just kind of on a slow decline. They just kind of got worse and worse and worse as the days went by, and this was over maybe a 2-week period. And she didn't even use the oxygen machine. I had to call the EMS because we had a doctor's appointment for her, and she just couldn't get out of her chair. And finally, I convinced her to let me call EMS. And I'll tell you something, man. Like, I've never encountered people that were more professional
I remember saying
and
that.
more intelligent and competent than the people that came in the ambulance and the fire truck to help her both times. I consider myself so very lucky that we had those people and we were able to have it taken care of in such an effective way. Excuse me. And obviously throughout the 10 years, I missed many opportunities and many things that I couldn't really do whenever I was in my 20s because I had to take care of her and do things for her and be there for her. And she would always be very, uh, she would always say that, oh, it's fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But I knew it wasn't true. And I had to do those things. And I want to make one thing very clear is that I did every single thing like that with no regret, no resentment, nothing. I would do that again. I'd be doing that right now if she was still in that house. And whenever my dad gets older, I'll be doing that for him. And if I have a wife and she has problems, I'll be doing that for her. It's that's who I am, and I'll always do everything that I can to help and protect people that I care and I love. And anyway, it was at a cost, though. Um, and so throughout those years, kind of the scope of things that I would do and things that she would do waned. They waned much more over to my side, where I was doing all the laundry, I was doing all the dishes and everything. And towards the very end, I was just doing everything. I would wake up in the morning, and I would cook dinner for her, or sorry, cook breakfast for her, and then go back to sleep, and then wake up and make sure that she's okay. And I could only sleep for maybe 2 hours a night whenever this was happening. And the first time that she ever really had like a big health scare, this was in like 2012, 2013. And ironically, it's the reason her having this health scare was the reason why I started making YouTube videos, because I had to quit going to school because I couldn't bear to not be there and help her and take care of her. And back then, we didn't have the money to hire a caretaker or a nurse or anything. We didn't even have the money to have hot water. So anyway, that's whenever I started doing YouTube. And I remember waking up and like hearing her screaming my name. And for the next like 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years, it's hard for me to really remember back then. I would not be able to sleep for more than like an hour and a half, 2 hours without hearing those screams in my head and it waking me up and having to go out and check to see if she's still alive. And this started happening again recently, and I couldn't really get any sleep. I couldn't rest at all. Anytime I would wake up, it would just be immediately a panic attack, and it was just awful. And anyway, so fast forward to, I guess, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no, not 2 weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was out here in this exact chair, sitting in this treehouse, and
I'm gonna mention. So, Asmund has been a very close friend of mine for a long time, and one of the I guess ways that like we first kind of like bonded and like really got to know each other and became friends was kind of talking about our parents and how much our parents meant to us, and just kind of we were telling like stories from high school and all kinds of stuff. We actually, it's funny, we got in a Discord call because I was going to ask him about a video. It's like, hey, do you think this video is a good idea? And this was one of the first times I'd ever even talked to him. And we ended up talking for like 4 or 5 hours, just talking about, growing up in high school and parents, and how many like similarities we've had. And this is whenever I lived in Dallas still. I lived at home slash in a stadium that I didn't tell anybody I was sleeping in. But I stayed at home for a similar reason, actually. Not anything to this degree. I wanted to stay home and help my mom and my parents because my mom has MS, and we talked about that. You know, it was like because it was like Asmund and Train and Nick and Chance that kind of convinced me to move to Austin 3 years ago. All those guys kind of convinced me to move to Austin, and Professor Akali actually was like, yo, come live with me. So that's whenever I kind of did it, but I didn't want to at first. And I remember kind of, going back the other way with it and talking to Asmund about, hey, like, let's go get a house. This was 2 years ago. Let's go get a house together and this or that. And Asmund, I can't even remember a time where Asmund would spend the night anywhere. He wouldn't even spend the night or sleep over anywhere because he would just like, he was really uncomfortable being anywhere other than home. Not only for his own reasons, but just because like he had so much anxiety about his mom. It was so bad for the last few years, and I mean, just like what he just said, right? He would have so much anxiety about his mom that it just kind of added to that, I guess, because he just didn't want to not be home and there'd be something wrong or whatever, because his mom was in really bad shape for the last few years. Now, I'm very fortunate. My parents are together, and my dad is home, and with my mom, right? Uh, you know, she's gonna be okay, right? With me, my mom moving out, and it was nowhere near as bad as this. Yeah, like I know there were plenty of times, and I guess really where I'm getting at with this was there was times where like me or like our other friends might have even been like frustrated at times with Asmon. Not like in a bad way. Just couldn't be like, oh man, come on, like just stay out, just stay out late or whatever, and you just stay here. Like who cares? Just spend the night here. But it would just give him like that much anxiety, um, which I totally get. I totally understand it. It's one of those things that a lot of times as friends, you want your friends to like come hang out and do something, but like your friend like they just can't, and this is just one of those times, and you kind of realize why, you know.
I was doing a news video about just different stuff that I'd want to go online to talk about. And in the process of that, my mom texted me and she asked me to bring her a Pepsi. And I went in to check on her, and she was not doing well. And she was wanting to go to the hospital, within probably the next 24 to 48 hours. And I was glad to hear that, especially with how she had left last time, because that's where I thought she had been to begin with. And I go and I come back, and I'm sitting right here in this chair looking at this phone right here and talking, and I just decide I'm just too stressed out. I have to leave, and I have to go. And so I leave and I go to lay down, and I'm laying down stressed out, like really worried, and like my room's right next to her room, and just out of nowhere I hear a crash, I hear glass breaking, I look up and I see like lights reflected on like the side of the door, and like it's like going everywhere. I'm like, what's going on? Like, did you get a new light from Amazon? Like, what is this? Because the reason why I wonder that is, I guess I'll tell this story first, and then I'll get into her spending my money on Amazon. Anyway, so I go in.
This was so
and
like
the floor is on fire. Part of hers on fire.
he told us when this happened.
And also the thing that she had connected to her face with her oxygen machine was on fire because she was smoking with the oxygen machine on. And I don't know why you would do that. I don't understand it. I don't. Why do you do that? And there's part of me that's very angry at her. I'm very upset. It didn't have to be like this. There's no reason for it to have been like this. And anyway, so I put out the fire, and it's like a Looney Tunes, cartoon where like there's like a bomb and there's like a fuse, and the fuse is being lit and it's going to the bomb. Well, the bomb was the oxygen machine, and her little tank connector was on fire, and it was literally going towards it. And so I'm like frantically trying to put this out before it reaches the machine and it blows up. And meanwhile, she's on the floor, like, she's just completely in shock, and she has no idea what's going on, really. And I think that mostly just in shock. And the last words that she said to me before they took her to the hospital was, "I'm such an asshole." Meaning that she is for doing it. So I think that she did feel like, yeah, I fucked up here. Which is like, yeah, you did. And anyway, so I put out the fire, and I'm able to like give her an aloe plant for her face, for her burns all over her face, obviously, which surprisingly were not really that bad. And we had to call the ambulance, which then again, she was telling me, don't call the ambulance, don't call the ambulance. And it's like, I see her there, she has burn wounds all over her face, and she can barely breathe, and she was on the oxygen 24/7, and she wanted to go to the hospital anyway. And so I called the ambulance. Again, I don't know if it was the right decision, but out of all these, questionable decisions that I'll think about for the rest of my life, I feel like this is the one that I will think the least about. And anyway, so they take her to the hospital, and I don't get a call until like way later on that day. And I find out that she's in like a ICU for like a burn trauma, and I go to see her in a couple of days because she was on a ventilator at the beginning, and I couldn't really interact with her because she was like sedated. And anyway, so I do all that, and I finally do see her, and the burns on her face were not really that bad. And the truth is that I held out hope that she would pull through this until the last day, man. Until the last fucking day. I was like, oh, things will turn around, things will get better, things will get better. And I thought, well, she got sick pretty fast, and like maybe she'll just get better really fast. And I tried so hard to hold out hope and to believe. And I tried so many different things. Like I would look things up. I would talk to my dad about it for hours every day. I went to, she raised us, not us, me, her and I went to a church. It's a Roman Catholic church. I had communion and everything whenever I was young, and we went to Mass every Sunday. And I even went to our old church to, pray for her and light a candle for her and everything. And I'm not a religious person in a very strong way. I would say that I'm not a religious person. I don't really know. And anyway, I went there because I thought to myself, well, hey man, if there's a 1% chance that this could do something, like I'll be there every day. And that's what I did. And I told everybody, and I would go and sit with her, and I would read all the comments that you all and my friends would make for her, and all the things, people wanting her to get better and everything, and to try to improve her spirits as much as I could, and try to just be as positive and happy as much as I can be. And it was really hard. It really, it's never really been like this before for me, and so this was a lot. And anyway, things were very back and forth. She would be okay one day and bad the next day, okay one day and bad the next day. And then they would want her to wear like a mask for her breathing. It was like supposed to regulate like oxygen and like CO2. And she didn't want to wear the mask, and it was like a fight with like the doctors and her, and it was another fucking thing. And I got a call from my dad, and we had to meet with like all the doctors and everybody, because they wanted to actually have like a conversation to get everybody on the same page. And whenever we did that, they pretty much told me and my dad that she had end-stage COPD. That had nothing really to do with the burns. Like, she was in critical condition before that fire even happened. And we tried everything that we could. Tried different types of treatments, different types of like machines, everything. And finally it got down to the point where we either had to put her on a ventilator, or we had to just make her as comfortable as possible. And they told me that, and I knew that, I look at her and like, she had so many other things wrong with her, heart problems, like her, everything. I mean, she's 70 years old and overweight. And it's like, if we put her on the ventilator, we're just waiting for something else bad to happen. We're waiting on the next thing to happen. And I knew it would happen. And it was kind of already happening with some other secondary problems that she was having. Like, it was not a realistic solution, and they and we all agreed that if she went on that ventilator, she'd probably just never come off of it. And I couldn't really bear to put her through that. And so we tried to just make her as comfortable as possible, and that's pretty much what happened. And again, I don't know if that was the right decision. We had a lot of conversations about her quality of life and everything, and it was all just fucking grim, man. It was just fire and brimstone grim. And I just, it was the hardest decision I'd ever had to make. And my dad and I obviously made it together. And I don't know if it was the right decision, but I'm pretty much certain that it was. It was inevitable. And my mom, like, she wasn't just like a mom for me. Like Zach and Cody and Lowell and Cameron and Jeff and AJ and everybody else in my neighborhood, and in a way, our little makeshift family. She would always ask about Cody and Jeff, and she would say, how are my other sons doing? And it was so hard to tell Cody and Zach, man, it really was. Oh man, it really was. Like, I'm not an emotional person, but instead of being filled with like grief, it's just filled me with so much emptiness. She was my best friend, and I would come home and I would be so happy to see her, and I would lock the door whenever I'd leave so nobody could come and like bother her or anything. She was just so precious to me and so important to me, and it wasn't just to me, it was to all my friends too. And I want to say that so many people reached out, so many of you guys have reached out and been so supportive, and so you've shared. Like, there's a guy I talked to a couple of days ago, and fuck man, the guy's going through the exact same thing that we had to go through. Like, he's in basically the stage of the meeting with the doctors at this point, and fuck dude, like, and that's the kind of shit, like, that's why I'm making this video, man, is because I know that I'm not the first person to have to deal with this, and I feel like I should share what's happened to me. And some of the people, like everybody in OTK, especially Tips, Tips that check on me pretty much every day, has just been so supportive and everything of me and everything. I've just been so lucky. My friends, Zach and Cody, and other people too, obviously you all might not really know, have just been there. Like, my dad has just been there for me, and I've been there for him too. Like, you gotta remember, like, my mom and my dad knew each other for 50 fucking years.
It's a lot of years.
I think it was a lot harder for him than he lets on. And that really does kind of make me sad. But anyway, also, whenever I told Izzy that my mom was in the hospital, she had there's this little like Swedish horse, and she had a special hand-carved Swedish horse sent to the house, and she wanted me to give it to my mom whenever she came back home. And whenever she found out that might not happen, I brought it directly to the hospital, and I gave it to my mom, along with also a Swedish cooking book, so she could look at all the different meals and everything. And my mom, horses were her favorite animal. It made her so happy. And Izzy was there for me like every day, and we talked about it. And her and my mom were very close too, and they spent a lot of time talking and just being together. And not a whole lot, I guess, but as much as you would expect from two people that live in the same house. And anyway, whenever they were both living in the same house with me, we pretty much were running a miniature Amazon warehouse. I'm not even kidding, like probably 5 to 10 packages coming to the house every single day. That between the two of them, they would order. And my mom, of course, was using Social Security does not really pay that well, so she was using my card, and I could buy so much stuff, and like we had no room for this stuff, but it made her so happy. And how could I say no? I mean, she was so old, it was hard for her to do anything. This is one of the only things that she could do to make herself happy. Of course I did it.
Dude, like, Asmon's house, like, he's not even being, like, he's not even exaggerating. It's the funniest part about this. We would go over to his house. You know when you move into a new place and you just have boxes everywhere? And like their boxes will be there for like a year. Like you move, but then you don't even unpack anything. Just imagine that in a house that you've lived in for like your whole life, like 30 years. It's just there's always just more boxes. It's like there's just constantly. Like that's like me. Like I could just show you like just boxes constantly coming in. It's great.
And
yeah, it's like literally it's like me right now.
It was a pain in the ass having to throw away all the boxes every week, though.
Yeah, Miz has the same problem right now.
Yeah, I really wanted to say that so many people have been so much so important to me through this, and to all of you, thank you so much. And for like, what am I gonna do now? Like, what's gonna happen now? I don't know when I'll be back to streaming on my main channel. I have no idea. I really don't. I have to, like, obviously we have to do like a funeral, and I have to see my family, and there's a lot that I have to do, and it's not going to be simple, and it'll involve traveling and everything. So I can't really say when. However, I would like to come on my alt stream and just kind of give my fucking opinion about things and talk about stuff that I'm reading online that I have to give my 2 cents for. Because if it's either I talk to the camera or I sit in front of a mirror and I almost have the conversation with myself. So I just have to get that out there. And so I do hope to continue making maybe YouTube content I do on my second stream, maybe a couple times a week, maybe, hopefully. Other than that, just keep up with my Twitter, and I'll let you guys know what's going to happen. And I want to say to everybody, and not just my close friends and family, I really appreciate everything that you all have done. And I know how much many of you all loved my mom and thought that she was great. I got so many good comments about her, and people were so nice. And thank you so much. It's made me feel so humble and so small to realize that I had that many people around me who cared. And I really appreciate every single one of you. Thank you. I don't really know if my life will ever be the same. I was such a good boy, and we just would sit here in this house and play video games and hang out, and she'd make us cupcakes, and we were just good boys. It was so fucking good, man. It was so fucking good. And I feel like the truth is that this is what happens to everybody, and now I guess it's my turn to give that to somebody else. That's the most that I can really say. And I think that's what she'd want too. She was the most genuine and pure-hearted and kind person that I've ever known. And I think that from now on, I'm going to try to be a little bit less of an asshole. Try. I really am. Just try to be a little bit more relaxed and more okay. So, I'll be honest, I'm glad I'm done with this video. I wanted to tell you all pretty much what happened and how things went with me and where I'm at. I hope to see you all soon, and I'll probably have new videos coming out, and I'll be back soon. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you later. Peace.
Good video. All I could really think about when he said, I'm going to try to be less of an asshole, is when that guy who works at Blizzard who tweeted out that Asmon's an asshole, and then everybody was really pissed, man. People were pissed. They were up in arms. But then, like, me and Asmon both were like, well, what do you expect? He's an asshole. Like, yeah, like, no shit. Of course. But, oh. Yeah. Dude, I love Asmon so much, man. Like, and like I said, I already knew most of what's in this video, right? But I actually it just sucks, man. I didn't even want to watch this on stream. The reason I watched it on stream was because he put it on his main channel, and I think over the years, man, I've gotten a little bit like jaded, and I know you guys see it in me too, where I've gotten a little bit jaded, and I get like upset, or I point out things where people are more like, they try and farm stuff, or they act a certain way, and maybe this just happens whenever like you create content for so long, and I'm like, oh, like I felt it would be like, I didn't want to like watch Asmon's video on stream, because it's like, it just feels weird, because it's like you're using like a terrible situation for content or whatever, right? That was like my initial reaction. That's why I was like, I'm not gonna watch it on stream. But one of those things that you realize is, it's not about you all the time. And I don't just mean that about me, but sometimes you watch something or you do something on stream, not because it's for content, not to farm views, not for whatever, not to farm sympathy, not to fake cry for subs, not to do all these weird whatever things that people might think that people do. Sometimes it is, sure, but it's not always like that. There's a lot of people that need to see this video. I think there's a lot of people that really need to see this video, because this is something that's kind of like a fact of life, and everybody has to go through it, assuming a normal course of life. I've seen the unfortunate situation of somebody losing their child before before they pass, which is, I couldn't even imagine. But just because everybody goes through it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody goes through it the same way, or everybody handles it the same way once they go through it. And just because everybody goes through it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt just as much, right? And I think it's one of those things that a lot of us, I mean, I lost my grandma during COVID. A lot of us have lost somebody in the last couple of years, right? I mean, it happens all the time, but especially recently with the pandemic and stuff going on, I think it's even more likely now than ever that something probably happened. And I think it's just really important to share how you feel sometimes because there's somebody out there that relates, and there's somebody out there that could really, really use that. Because you're not the only one dealing with everything. And I don't know, man. I just, I love Asmund so much, man. I really do. Frick. I really do. And it hurts. It hurts. Anytime you have a friend or somebody that you care about and you see them hurting and going through something, it's it doesn't feel good. It never feels good. Not just like, I mean, Aspen's done a lot for me, man. And there's been times where you guys have seen it, where me and Asmund will. Sometimes it's content, sometimes it's us being funny or whatever. You know, me and Asmund will like butt heads because we have similar personality types. It's just we're both. The best way to describe it, me and Asmund are both guild leaders. so, so you'll see it. Or sometimes there's some of this, you know. So yeah, we're both butt heads. Yeah, exactly. That's why we butt heads. So you got the Ret Paladin and the Arms Warrior just butting heads, but two guild leaders doing it a different way. It's actually you know what's really funny, dude? It's the character archetypes of who I am and who Asmund is. It's so it actually relates so closely. It's hilarious. Like I'm like just who I am with playing the paladin and who he is with like I'm the warrior. It's really funny. It's really, really funny to think about. But at the end of the day, like, even though we operate a little bit, you know, it's like we operate differently. No, we operate the same, but we function differently, if that makes sense. But yeah, man. It just hurts. And I hate seeing him go through that. No, not that kind of heads. Okay, guys. I love how he stands up for you when people talk shit. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I have Asmund's back, and he's got my back, and like I said, even though we butt heads sometimes, hopefully we'll be doing like fun, stupid stuff again soon, like the old IRL streams. And do you guys remember like 3 years ago? Actually, that was almost 4 years ago. Like the late night PUBG with like me, McConnell, and Asmund, and all that kind of stuff. I really want to get back to that, and just I say it all the time. I feel like we had better content, but like less viewers like 3-4 years ago. Like we legit had like better content, but way less people watch our stuff. Now there's a number of reasons for that, you know. But man, it's getting better. Things will get better. And they may not be the exact same as they used to be, right? In life, whenever things change, this and that, but you can get back to where it's pretty close, and you can, or maybe you can find something else that's you know, it works too. But it's just different content. So you guys do Nasgate too. Yeah. I know Byron. It's good to see you, by the way. I haven't seen you in a while. It is just kind of different, right? It's how Twitch goes. It's how life goes. But I do want to get back to doing some of the other stuff and whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of ranting. I'm stuck in a rant. But I don't know, man. Asmund has been a incredibly good friend to me. Incredibly good friend. And he's got my back. I got his back. I mean, he's a lot of how I got my start on Twitch. He's one of the people that convinced me because I was on YouTube before, and he's one of the people that kind of convinced me to start streaming on Twitch and stick to it. And yeah,